Some women turn 80 and they're still hiking, still laughing, still sharp as ever. Others can't walk to their own mailbox by 65. Same world, same medicine, same food available to both. So why does one woman thrive and another decline? The answer isn't genetics, it's something nobody told you. Hi, I'm Dr. Zoe Bennett, and for the last several years, I've spent my career studying something that fascinates me more than almost anything else in medicine. Why some women age beautifully staying strong, sharp, and independent well into their 80s and 90s while other women, sometimes with the exact same family history, start declining in their 60s. I've sat across from hundreds of patients, and I can tell you the difference is rarely what people think it is. It's not about winning some genetic lottery, it's not about having more money or better doctors. It comes down to five specific differences: patterns that healthy older women share, almost without exception, and patterns that women who decline early almost always miss. Today, I'm going to walk you through every single one of them. Stay with me until the end, because the fifth one is the one most women have never even heard of, and it might be the most important. Let's start by clearing up the biggest myth out there: the idea that healthy aging is mostly genetic. I cannot tell you how many times a patient has looked at me and said, "Well, my mother had osteoporosis, so I guess I will too," or "heart disease runs in my family, so there's nothing I can really do." I understand why people think this way. It feels easier to blame your DNA than to look at your daily choices. But here's what the research actually shows: genetics account for roughly 20 to 25% of how you age. That means the vast majority of your future health, 75 to 80% of it, is shaped by things you actually have control over: lifestyle, movement, nutrition, stress, sleep, relationships, and how proactively you manage your health. I've watched women with strong family histories of disease live vibrant, active lives into their late 80s, simply because they understood this principle early and built habits around it. And I've watched women with no family history of anything serious decline rapidly in their 60s because they assumed they were safe and didn't build the right habits. Genetics load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. So if you've been using your family history as an excuse, I want you to let that go right now, because it's costing you decades of healthy living. Now let's talk about the first real difference: movement, but not movement the way most people think about it. When I ask my patients if they exercise, almost everyone says yes. They walk the dog, they do a yoga class, maybe some light cardio, and that's good, don't get me wrong. But here's what the women who are still strong, mobile, and independent at 80 are doing differently: they are strength training. Specifically, they are doing what we call functional strength work, meaning movements that mimic real life. Standing up from a chair without using your hands, carrying groceries, climbing stairs, getting up off the floor. Around your mid-30s, you begin losing muscle mass naturally, a process called sarcopenia, and it accelerates significantly after menopause due to hormonal changes. If you don't actively fight this with resistance training, by the time you're 70, you may have lost so much muscle that simple daily tasks become difficult or dangerous. This is the single biggest predictor I see in my own practice for who ends up in a wheelchair and who's still gardening at 85. Let me give you a real comparison. I had two patients, both 68 years old when I first met them. One walked 30 minutes a day, every day, religiously. The other did two short strength training sessions a week, nothing fancy, just bodyweight squats, light dumbbells, resistance bands. 10 years later, the walker had developed significant balance issues and had already had one fall that fractured her wrist. The strength trainer was still independent, still driving, still carrying her own suitcases through the airport. Walking is wonderful for your heart and your mood, but it does almost nothing to preserve the muscle and bone density you need to stay independent. If there's one thing I want you to take from this video, it's this: start strength training now, no matter your age, even if it's just 2 sessions a week with light weights. Your future mobility depends on it. The second major difference is how these women eat, and it's not about diets or restriction, it's about a few specific patterns. First, protein. Most women dramatically undereat protein, especially after 50. You need more protein as you age, not less, because your body becomes less efficient at using it to build and maintain muscle. The women who stay strong into their 80s are consistently eating protein at every single meal: eggs, fish, chicken, beans, Greek yogurt, lentils. They're not waiting until dinner to get most of their protein in one big serving. They're spreading it throughout the day because your body can only use so much at once. Second, these women eat to fight inflammation. Chronic, low-grade inflammation is one of the biggest drivers of aging-related disease, from heart disease to arthritis to cognitive decline. The women who age well tend to eat far more vegetables, healthy fats like olive oil and nuts, and fatty fish, while keeping processed foods, sugar, and fried foods to a minimum, not eliminated entirely, just minimized. Third, and this surprises a lot of people, gut health. We now know your gut microbiome plays a massive role in inflammation, immune function, even mood and cognitive health. Women who age well tend to eat fermented foods like yogurt and a wide variety of fiber-rich plants, which feed beneficial gut bacteria. Here's the mistake I see constantly in women in their 40s and 50s. They cut calories aggressively to manage weight, but in doing so, they cut protein too, and they end up losing muscle instead of fat. This sets them up for frailty later. The goal isn't to eat less, it's to eat smarter with enough protein and nutrient density to support the body you'll need decades from now. The third difference is something most people completely overlook: the connection between your mind, your stress levels, and your physical health. Chronic stress isn't just unpleasant, it's physically destructive. When you're under constant stress, your body produces excess cortisol, and over years, elevated cortisol contributes to high blood pressure, weakened immune function, weight gain around the abdomen, and even accelerated cellular aging. I've seen women who looked a decade older than their actual age, and when I looked closer, it wasn't poor diet or lack of exercise, it was years of unmanaged chronic stress. But there's something even more powerful than managing stress, and that's social connection. There's research coming out of long-running studies on aging that consistently shows loneliness and social isolation are as damaging to your health as smoking. Let that sink in for a moment. Isolation can be as harmful to your body as a cigarette habit. The women who stay sharp, joyful, and healthy into their 80s almost always have strong social ties, close friendships, regular family contact, community involvement, a sense of purpose outside themselves. They have people who check in on them and people they check in on. This isn't just emotionally nice, it's physiologically protective. It lowers stress hormones, it keeps your brain engaged, it gives you reasons to get up, get dressed, and stay active. If you take nothing else from this section, understand this: your relationships are a health intervention, just as real as any medication or exercise routine. Nurture them deliberately as you age, don't let them fade into the background. Now here's the part most women have never been told, and it's the difference I consider most critical of all. There are specific health screenings that, if caught early, can completely change the trajectory of your life, and most women are not getting them. First, bone density testing. Osteoporosis is often called a silent disease because you don't feel your bones weakening. You simply find out when you fracture something. Women should be getting bone density scans starting around age 65 or earlier if there are risk factors, yet a huge percentage of women never get this test until after their first fracture when the damage is already done. Second, hormone changes during perimenopause and menopause. This transition affects far more than hot flashes. It impacts bone density, heart health, cognitive function, and mood, yet so many women are told their symptoms are just stress or just aging and never get proper evaluation or support. Finding a doctor who takes menopause seriously and discusses options with you, whether that's hormone therapy or other interventions, can dramatically affect your trajectory for the next 30 years. Third, cardiovascular screening. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in women, yet it's chronically underdiagnosed because symptoms in women often look different than the textbook symptoms we associate with men. Regular blood pressure checks, cholesterol panels, and conversations with your doctor about your specific risk factors are essential, not optional. The women who stay healthy into their 80s are not the ones who avoid the doctor's office out of fear. They are the ones who go in regularly, ask questions, push for the right tests, and treat preventive care as non-negotiable. Catching a problem 10 years early instead of discovering it after a crisis can be the difference between independence and decline. So let's bring this all together. The women who stay healthy, strong, and independent into their 80s share 5 things in common. They strength train consistently, not just walk. They eat enough protein and prioritize anti-inflammatory, gut-friendly foods. They actively manage stress and protect their social connections like they protect their physical health. And they stay on top of the medical screenings that catch problems before they become crises. None of this requires perfection. It doesn't require you to become an athlete overnight or overhaul your entire life this week. It requires consistency, awareness, and a willingness to stop assuming that decline is inevitable. It isn't. I've watched it firsthand in my own practice over and over again. The women who understand these 5 principles and apply them even imperfectly are the ones still living full, vibrant, independent lives decades from now. The choice you make today, the workout you skip or don't skip, the protein you add to your plate, the friend you call back, the screening you finally schedule, these are the building blocks of the next 30 or 40 years of your life. If this video gave you something valuable, please subscribe to this channel, because I'll be breaking down each of these 5 pillars in much greater depth in upcoming videos, including exactly what a strength training routine should look like at every age, and which specific blood tests you should be requesting from your doctor that most people never ask about. Drop a comment below and tell me which of these 5 differences surprised you the most. I read every single one. Until next time, take care of yourself, because the way you age is far more in your hands than you've ever been told.